Hello. Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello, Meda. Thanks for your time.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations on Undiscovered reaching 30,000 followers. That is a really cool milestone. Then can you tell me in your own words, like what is the USP? What is your USP?
So, our USP is that we find the very best talent wherever they are globally so that our clients don't have to have the hustle. So, that's our motto for our clients. And we have a huge network, obviously. And for our candidates, we try to match them with their dream jobs. So, also with not so much hustle. I mean, we can always master the recruitment process of our clients, but yeah, matching talents in their dream jobs and searching the dream talent for companies who have jobs and to fill and team to scale. So we have a pretty different approach because I try to always take calls with people, advise them before they send the application. I give guidance on resume, on portfolio, on LinkedIn profile. It's not like those, hey, give me your data, I send it over to the client, thanks, ciao. If I believe it's not good enough or there's improvement to do and still have a chance to land an interview, then I prefer to wait a bit that people pimp and improve a bit their documents, let's say.
Oh, that's really interesting because so then, and your feedback is, of course, based on all these years that you have been working. So it's like it's experiential knowledge, really. So that's quite cool. I mean, okay, so you've obviously had a lot of experience talking to the job seekers and the job providers, and right now I feel like the market is brutal. So what do you think has caused that?
I think by the first of all the economy. I mean, obviously the economy is not at its best. So the reality is there are like less job in tech than there was in the past, right? But there are still a lot of people who pursue studies in UX, in product, and software engineering. So it's not like there's less candidate, but there's less jobs. So if there's always more and more people in competition for a lower amount of job, the automatic consequence of that is that company get more picky.
Of
The market
course.
gets a bit more local. We ask a bit office again, or we try to hire a talent who already has the citizenship of a continent, or like of a country, to avoid the paper hustle, etc. So these have been some shifts in the market. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely a reality. I think there's 25%. I went to a conference yesterday. 25% less tech job this year in the last 2 years as before. So
25. Oh,
yeah,
wow, that is a huge number.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it's going to change in the future. But okay, so I mean, keeping this brutal market in mind, then from someone who has, of course, seen a lot of, I'm assuming, not the best candidates, how would you suggest people, navigate this and bring themselves up to speed?
I think there's different tactics. First of all, like it's very important to master your documents. I still see a lot of people who have grammatical mistakes in their resume, who have a blurry photo, who have a hyperlink to a portfolio that's not working, or a password that's outdated. I mean, you really have to have documents that are constantly in improvement. I know a lead product designer in top company. I'm not going to name him now, but he's working 10 minutes a day on his portfolio, and he's not looking for a job now. And he's good. He got promoted in his role. So the point is, I think every designer, and not only designer, just also the resume. I think it's a bit of a never-ending job. You always can push it to the next level. So, there's always a typo that can be better, an alignment, the content, the way you choose the good length. So, first you have to master your document. I think that's really crucial. I'm not going to go to all the details. We need hours for that. And I give talks around that actually. But I think after the document is the networking strategy. You cannot, how you look for a job has also changed. It's not, I've I'm speaking every day to people who tell me what's happening before people are reaching out to me every day. And now I got an email only one this month. So now it's the candidate who has to activate more the strategy, and that means stop going just on LinkedIn. That's a big piece of advice I can give, because people have this love and hate relation with LinkedIn, because you see this button, 300 applicants, 2 hours, and gives you a horrible vibe, right? First of all, you have to know that those are not the real numbers, because if you click on apply, but you don't finalize your application, it's still counted as an application. So that's some algorithm that freak out people. So if you see 200 applicants, still apply, don't be scared. But I think the strategy is you have to target company you like. There's companies who don't have their job on LinkedIn, especially some early stages startup, because a job slot costs a lot of money. So you don't want to have, they don't have all of them there. So go on the career page of those companies, check there if there's a job. Use your network, a former colleague who's a senior, a lead person in a company you like or in a company you saw a job. They are likely to know what's the plan for Q2, Q3 in 25 about hiring. Some company have referral plans, so it's very good, and even your friend can refer you. You could skip some of the getting lost in the 300 applicants that are screened via AI or via a person or via both. So yeah, I think there's some tricks around that, and go to events, show that you are here, that you are looking. It's not just the apply button on LinkedIn. That's, I think, one major thing to have in mind.
Actually, that's amazing. Thank you. These are some really good, actionable tips for sure. And I think then I'm curious because let's assume you have designers who are doing these things.
Yeah.
In addition to that, is there something a designer can do to really stand out? Because I'm sure you yourself have met a lot of people at events who are, who are basically putting in the work.
I mean, there's the amount of effort you put in a portfolio, right? You have some okayish case study, like, it's nice, the mock-up of the final prototype is okay, it's good, alignment is okay, but those portfolio, we saw them hundreds of those. It's about your personal branding, making, you are in design. I still see portfolios where people do a nice mock-up, but the typo is super boring, and I have the feeling I'm on a travel blog of a friend of mine who's not a designer. So avoid Notion, avoid Medium to share case study. You need to design it. There's tools. I mean, everyone is obliged to have a website. They feel this pressure. Okay, it's better if you are a product designer, sure. But I prefer to see a Figma landing page with a nice about, a nice project section, a nice contact. It's interactive. The final screens can be interactive prototypes. You can have a nice background color. Put your personal branding into that in a shorter time, right? Because we all know people, very often they don't do their portfolio unless they got laid off. And I think one of the learnings nowadays is also to do your portfolio before your company starts to have trouble. So that when there's a problem and eventually it gets fast that you are laid off, depending the notice period or the how it happens in the different companies, then you are ready. And then you have just to pimp some details, because the panic of starting from zero is horrible, and that makes people rush their documents. And then they say, yeah, just use that, that's what I have now. But if someone else put a lot of effort in a portfolio, they're going to land the interview and you don't. So I think, and get opinions on platform like ADP List from different people. I'm mentoring there, there's other people mentoring. Get different opinions, train your pitch as well, how you introduce yourself, just this like 1 minute, tell me about yourself. You have to be on point, explain what's your key strengths, the key contribution you had in your job, what's the impact you had through design, have the numbers in mind. Train your pitch many times that it comes across super easygoing when you talk, and it doesn't seem forced or like learned by head, but more something natural. That's when you make it to an interview. And I see many people who are not prepared. When finally they have this interview, they're so excited to have an interview, they just go there. You have to make research, who you're talking with, go on their LinkedIn, check the history of the company, what's the latest product that came out, what's the latest features they add on their product. If it's a mobile app, download it, play with it, identify some pain points. You know, you need to be on topic. I see too many people who just read the job description and think that's enough. That's not how you go in a job interview.
Yeah, I mean, these are, yeah, I agree. I feel like it would, I think, especially with so much competition, how else would you show that you care enough and you really you're interested in working there? I guess that's how you would show your interest. Okay, that's interesting. Especially right now, I mean, you talked about the rough economy, about how, of course, there's 25% less jobs, people are doing so much to get in. But specifically in this time, how would you say a junior designer can break in? Because at least from what I've seen on LinkedIn, it looks like even people with, I don't know, 5, 7 years are struggling. So someone who's, I don't know, fresh out of college or a boot camp, how
Yeah.
do they manage to break in?
I think that's the most difficult part, honestly. The market has been the last couple of years, everyone is hiring seniors. No mid-level, barely mid-level, no juniors at all. The reason behind that is when lots of the big software houses bought some smaller startup, they got, you know, a fusion, like the big one, the big fish eats the small one. And with that, there were layoffs, but a lot on the leadership level. So a lot of leaders were cut, which means there were less leaders and they hired just senior to do the job. Do it. Do 0 to 1 product shipping. You don't have a junior to manage. There's not necessarily a lead looking over you every week. So they need doers. So the consequence is less leaders, lots of senior jobs. If there's no leaders who are into people management, there's no junior jobs. So that's a fact. You cannot do anything about that. That's a reality of the market. I think we can speak hours about having the best portfolio, the best documents. If there are no junior jobs, there simply are not. But again, there's ways. If you are really good, get involved in hackathons, get involved in side projects, register as a freelance. It doesn't take much. In Germany, you get your number very fast, for example. It's a couple of weeks. Of course, doing the tattoo shop of a friend or the yoga studio is not those big AI products that, you know, from the US, the Silicon Valley, that people dream about. But you have to get references, projects done. Be ready to do an internship or ideally a paid one to get your foot into a company. Sometimes I know it's financial, how you say, it's a sacrifice, right? But if you need to do another job that is not in design on the side, but get your foot in the door by being an intern, I think you have to. It's sad to say that. Of course, you prefer have directly a junior position. But if you feel stuck after some months of research, you have to find ways in, and you have to start somewhere. And I think getting a buddy, trying, you know, through mentorship on ADP list to connect with senior leaders, sometimes it can create a vibe, and then they'll be like, I see potential in this person. I will speak to my VP of design and talent acquisition. Maybe I try to make an opening because I would like to mentor these people, and I see this person could contribute within the company. So again, the networking is important. I know it's tiring. I know some introverts. I'm quite extrovert. I like to talk with people. This is why I'm a headhunter. But I think you have to go to design conference, to meetups. You have to, you know, educate yourself, connect with peers, because this person leads you to this one. People know what's happening on the market. You cannot just stay alone behind your screen and applying everywhere. So
That's true. Do you think a person could stay alone behind the screen if they have 10 years experience, you think? Or would you say this is general advice you would give to everyone?
I think I would give this advice to everyone, but generally the difference is that someone who's senior lead, they have already a
That's
huge
true.
network, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Their network is bigger, they apply to jobs where they've already been in the last round. That's also true. If sometimes you have been in last round, but they preferred someone else, or the job closed for weird circumstances, keep trace ideally in a Google Doc or Notion deck of all the company, the person you contacted, who was the last time you were in contact, and a comment section. In this case, you can keep an overview of where you applied, when was last time, and avoid doing stupid stuff like writing 3 times in 1 week to the same person, which looks desperate and cheap, you know, because you have to know what you are doing. I know you have to do mass application. It's sad sometimes until you find someone, but I think it's always better to start with targeted jobs. If you already worked on a B2B product, start applying with B2B companies. If you have a lot of mobile app experience, don't go on a complex dashboard web app for another product. So where you already did stuff, start in this area where even if you have little experience, maybe you can grow in this area or in a sector, fintech, if you did already fintech, you know. Jumping industry type of product while being junior is super hard. So on the other hand, sometimes some hiring manager are a bit more flexible. They know you need to start. But it's a tough one. I mean, and we can talk hours. It's the market who makes like that. I would love that company hire more leaders who are focused on people development and that they invest to retain juniors and grow them to senior leaders. You know, the beautiful Hollywood story.
Yeah.
Grow from junior to lead, stay 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the company. It's difficult nowadays because so many people are moving that, yeah, junior have a hard time. I know it.
Yeah, that is true. I think it's also the layoffs and then just all of the boot camps and just a lot of career switches. It's just the perfect, what is the word? Perfect storm brewing. Yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to ask though. I think it was last week, maybe you had made a post about how a designer can no longer really afford to be fully siloed. Like you cannot just say, I'm just UX or just UI or I don't do graphics. So could you talk a little bit more about that, about this all-rounder designer?
Yeah, I think there's always like two opinions, and I can go on both opinions on that. I think I made some years ago a post about that. Like, so many startups want a 3-in-1 shampoo, I call it. You know.
I
The
love
top
that.
research skills, strong at UX, product strategy, amazing crafter with great prototype and UI skills. Okay, I think everyone has a bit of a strength in, let's say, more the early part of the research or the concept, or like amazing crafter who are not interested so much into research. And it's good to know your strengths, but I think nowadays, also because of budget, look, many research teams have been shut down completely, which means that in smaller startups, they don't have a dedicated researcher. So the product designer cannot be someone who's just heavy on the craft and says, I'm completely uninterested in doing research, because the job is going to be hire someone who's really good at the three of them.
Yeah.
We are not all, superstars in all mastering every area perfectly, but you don't want a disbalance in those skills. I think that's something very important nowadays. And for researchers who I talk to struggle, they should, have to consider going more into service design by also being able to prototype a bit and craft a service, airport facilitation experience, and not just do interviews, etc. So we have to upskill because the market asks more skills within one person, because the company have less money to hire bigger teams. It's as simple as that. If you want to remain a specialist, you have to go in really big corporation, large enterprise solution. Those still have big research team, people dedicated to research, people dedicated to more the UI craft. This happens. And then there are the new skills who come on top, if you already do product design, the research, the UX strategy, and the UI and the prototyping part, it's still good if on the side you do micro interaction, how to animate, between screens, make the transition between on the mobile app, how the different pages are transitioning. I know this is gonna be a shitstorm on me, but I don't think people should know how to code, but it's always a plus. So people get freaked out, designer. They're like, I'm not a coder. yes, okay, but I think there's a whole difference between saying, okay, we don't expect you to be a hands-on coder doing the entire React Native app, yourself. But if if you work on something that's heavy technical product, it's good to understand the dev, but not just say, oh, I worked with developers, really understanding them. Understand how API integration work, for example, know the latest CSS framework, that at least knowing the technical limitation of your design, that the communication with the developer is better, especially in early stage startups. The role of founding product designers, I have 2 or 3 of those right now, especially in the US, there are a lot of those, there's a CTO, there's a CPO, but then there's someone who take in hand the design and a founding engineer who's hands-on in the engineering. Those people need to work very well together, so both need to understand each other's world. And we see that companies who perform well nowadays are a lot in the AI or in the productivity tool space. So if it's a productivity tool, generally it's a technical product for developers, for designers, for car dealers, whatever. So it has a heavy technical aspect, just the product itself. So if you are like, well, I'm not so interested into technology, I just want to stay in my craft, you're going to have a hard time getting those jobs.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, my conclusion so far for the perfect designer in 2025 is, of course, someone who's an all-rounder, great UX, UXR, UX, UI, understands code, super proactive, goes to events, and I mean, I guess basically someone who's just always upskilling and growing. That is definitely, that would be what makes a junior designer stand out, but it's advice that could be applied to, I guess, anyone.
Yeah.
So, keeping this in mind, I want to know, do you have any predictions for hiring trends in 2025, or let's say for the next 2 years?
I think again, more in this tooling space, that's what I see, the type of companies who are hiring. Um, Everyone is talking, will agency disappear? Agency tend to still separate UX and UI very strongly. There are
Yeah.
people who do research on UX strategy concept and people who do the prototyping and the UI. Everyone say agency are gonna die. I have an agency client who's working very well. They're growing surprisingly because they do really good work. So a lot of companies are taking in-house now the design. Before they were working with thousands of agencies, and I see a lot of brands who try to really strengthen up their internal design team. So that's on the big corporation side of things. So using a bit less third parties, they still work with agencies. So I think today is important. If I would advise someone, maybe it's better to start directly in a product company to have this experience, and maybe in your junior to mid career, agency is still great to work on different products
Yeah.
and to have quickly a portfolio with not just one brand, one product, right? On the other hand, if you stay stuck in an agency, there's always these startups don't like people coming from too heavy agencies. So you always have to think where you want to go on the long term. But don't go too early in the corporate career, that's my opinion, because the fast moving startup scene right now is everything what's happening around AI. You have to touch AI features. You have to know how to design an AI feature for a product, whatever it's a consumer mobile app, a web app in B2B. AI is a lot in demand, especially in the US. So you have to upskill in that, not just using productivity tool for yourself, that's one thing. It's great, to eliminate repetitive tasks, also in research, in design, but also to be interested in what a platform, a product can have as agent, as LLM, as AI feature. And understanding this world nowadays, I think, is crucial to land a job, because there's a lot of job in this area right now.
Okay, nice. That's actually quite, I guess, hopeful news. And okay, finally, because you work with candidates and you work with companies,
Yeah.
what is the one thing that you hope to see from people who come to you as candidates this year? The one thing that you hope you can see from them?
From the market, you mean, or from the
No, from
people?
the candidates, if you could tell them something.
If I can tell them something, That's a hard one. Just one thing
Wishlist.
to tell
If
them.
you have a magic wand.
A magic bound for them, a magic secret. Just be authentic, first of all. I think that's something important.
Mhm.
I've seen this across, I would advise that to anyone looking for a job and anyone speaking with someone, whatever the topic
Mhm.
is, you have to stay authentic. If you fake it, a good hiring manager sees it. So be honest, say, look, here I had a limitation from the client, the design is not super modern, clean UI. But look, here in this section of my website, you can see a bit more what's my style. Or you can say, like be around the topic, be ready to talk, be open about your struggles, but also don't be shy about your strengths. Some people, they don't speak enough about their qualities. Work is always a team effort, but to convince someone to hire you and to add value to a team, you also need to show your contribution to what has been done, your contribution. And I think that's a skill. And in the mass of thousands good portfolio, the soft skills are nowadays crucial, and a lot of people forget it. So I would say great work on your portfolio, but upskill in your soft skill as well, because understanding stakeholder in very early stages startup, sometimes a junior and a mid-level can already be involved with stakeholders. So
Mhm.
that are skills that all come from communication skill, the way you present, the way you talk, the way you convince someone in a job interview and later in your job. So yeah, I think that's very important.
That's amazing. This has been really insightful, and I feel like you've given us a lot of actionable, very insightful values. So, thank you very much, and thank you for your time. We're obviously going to share this and maybe send people the undiscovered way.
Yeah, sure. They can go on my website. There are the jobs there. If it's like mentorship, I
Mhm.
also you can find me on ADP list. To deep dive around. Mastering your resume, your portfolio, job search techniques. I have all those methods and all some tips and tricks around it. Ooh, that was a hard.
Friday feeling.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was very lovely speaking with you, Meda. I mean, don't hesitate if there's more questions. People can, come and find me on LinkedIn. I'm generally going to some events around design, product, and tech, so you can find me there. I'm always happy to answer questions when I meet people in person in some events. Or yeah,
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you.